Okay, welcome everybody to the session on humankinds. My name is Rob Wilson. I'm from the University of Alberta, and I'm really pleased to have been able to organize this session and chair it. It marks a little bit of a departure from most APA sessions in a number of ways. One is that the session is sponsored by the What Sorts Network, which is a network of 80 researchers and activists that I've pulled together over the last 6 or 7 years, and I'm going to say a little bit about the What Sorts Network in a minute. One of our kind of missions is to talk about issues of relevance to broader publics in ways that that message can get out and people can engage with the issues themselves. And I was able to work out things with the APA, which is very much not used to this way of doing things, to allow the filming today. So we have permission for that. Nobody in the audience will be filmed. It's just for the speakers, so when you're asking questions and so on, they won't be recorded. But we'll welcome lots of interaction in the session as it is. So welcome. We have 4 speakers today, and another unusual aspect of today's proceedings is that at most one of them is sort of a truly labeled de jure philosopher, and you can figure out which one. Okay, by the end of today. But they are, in the order that they'll present, and it's the order on the program, Natasha Vita-More, who's sitting right here, and I'll say a little bit more about each of them when they come up to speak. Gregor Waldbring, who's right here. Then Nick Agar is next, and then Ed Stein is the third from me across here. And the way it will work is that each speaker will have about 25 minutes. We'll keep the talks fairly brief, and we'll have up to the balance of another 10 minutes for questions directly. So you should have plenty of opportunity to ask what you want there. But then if we keep on that schedule, and I'll be trying to do that, we will also have time, about 30 minutes at the end, to have further, more open discussion. Typically the first question will come from somebody on the panel. We'll be able to film that because of permission from the panelists to do that, and then we'll open things up. So I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to engage. The What Sorts Network started, it's based at the University of Alberta, involves a lot of different people from a lot of different disciplines, plus community activists. And it started in 2002 with a focus on the history of eugenic sterilization in Alberta. As some of you perhaps don't know, there was, for better or worse, and certainly mostly for worse, a long history of eugenic sterilization in the province, where they had the Sexual Sterilization Act of Alberta in place from 1929 right through until 1972. And it's that end date that makes Alberta quite distinctive. About 90% of the sterilizations that were performed in Canada were performed in Alberta. There was about 2,900 over that period. And the rates of sterilization were actually slightly higher than in Virginia and California. So if you know some of your American history, there was a lot of sterilization going on. In 2002, I formed a group shortly after I'd gone to University of Alberta called AIC, the Alberta Consortium on the History of Eugenics, because much of this history is just simply not known, as I found out when I was teaching it in one of my philosophy classes. And so part of the mission was to try and raise public awareness, think about what was going, but also to try and develop an archival kind of resource for scholars who want to do work on anything from collective memory through to contemporary attitudes towards disability, prenatal screening, reproductive rights, issues about feminism and gender, a whole range of things. And thinking about things in this way gave us the question that in some sense named the group, the question that's the title of Jonathan Glover's book, What Sorts of People Should There Be? So the What Sorts Network is short for the What Sorts of People Should There Be network, and you can see probably why we don't use that title. So we have grown and we cover a range of issues. Last May we opened up a blog that got a lot of attention for an academic blog, and a number of the people here have contributed to it in various ways, and that's ongoing. And we've actually recently been covering, if you've just come to Canada, you no doubt will have heard of the so-called Baby Kaylee case. So we've been doing some work through this week, largely behind the scenes with some parents and some activist organizations on that. It's a very disturbing sort of story on many levels.